All right, let's talk about something that's, well, probably a little too familiar for many of us, that dreaded morning after. Today, we're going to walk you through a solid 5-step recovery plan, backed by science, by the way, to help get you back on your feet. It's all about feeling human again, right?
Yeah, does this scene look familiar? The pounding head, the churning stomach, and just that general feeling of, ugh, why? Look, you're definitely not alone. But the good news? There's actually a clear path to feeling better. And that's exactly what we're going to map out right now.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to kick things off with what you should absolutely not do. Then we'll dive straight into our 5 essential recovery steps. We'll cover rehydrating, then refueling and soothing your system, and finally resting and relieving pain. And we'll wrap it all up with something really important, knowing the red flags that mean it's an emergency.
Okay, so before we get into any of the solutions, it is absolutely critical to understand what to avoid. You know, a lot of those common cures people talk about can actually make your situation a whole lot worse.
So let's just dive right in and start busting some of these big myths. I'm willing to bet you've heard of, or maybe even tried some of these so-called cures. But as we're about to see, some of them can be genuinely harmful.
All right, so this is our official do not attempt list. I'm talking more alcohol, the classic hair of the dog, chugging energy drinks, trying to sweat it out in a sauna, or taking things like sedatives. You also need to be super careful about mixing painkillers and especially taking paracetamol after heavy drinking. Let's break down exactly why these are all such bad ideas. Let's start with the most famous one, the hair of the dog. Sure, another drink might seem like it takes the edge off for a little while, but you're really just kicking the can down the road. In reality, you're making your dehydration worse, you're slowing down your metabolism, and you're just putting your poor liver under even more strain. And it's not just more alcohol you got to avoid. That energy drink might seem tempting for the fatigue, but it can spike your heart rate, crank up your anxiety, and, you guessed it, make you even more dehydrated. And the idea of taking sedatives to sleep it off, that is incredibly dangerous. We're talking a serious risk of respiratory depression or even a coma. All right, so now that we've covered all the things to avoid, let's focus on what you should be doing. Your number one priority, our very first step, is rehydration. So here's the deal. Alcohol is a diuretic. That's just a fancy way of saying it makes you pee a lot, which flushes tons of fluid out of your body. That dehydration is the main reason you have that pounding headache, feel dizzy, and are so tired. So replenishing those lost fluids is job number one. But hang on, don't just go chugging a gallon of water all at once. The real key here is slow and steady replenishment. The goal is to drink about a glass of fluid, around 250 to 300 milliliters, every 20 to 30 minutes. And if you want to supercharge your recovery, go for an oral rehydration solution or a drink packed with electrolytes. So what's actually going on inside your body? Well, alcohol messes with a hormone that tells your kidneys to hold on to water. When that hormone gets suppressed, the floodgates open. By rehydrating, you're correcting that imbalance. Getting your fluid levels back to normal is what directly eases the headache, calms down that racing heart, and stops the room from spinning. Okay, so once you've started getting some fluids back in you, it's time for steps 2 and 3. This is where we address those crashing energy levels and, of course, that very unhappy stomach. These next 2 steps really work together as a team. The goal is to get some simple, easy-to-use energy back into your system while being incredibly gentle on your irritated stomach. So step 2 is all about replenishing glucose. Alcohol causes your blood sugar to plummet, and that's a big reason why you feel so weak and shaky. The fix is pretty simple. Easy-to-digest carbs. Think a banana, some plain toast, a little rice or oatmeal, or even a clear soup. Just be sure to eat in small portions so you don't overwhelm your system. Now for step 3, we're focused on calming your stomach. Alcohol is a major irritant, so the key here is to be gentle. Keep sipping your fluids and steer clear of anything that's just going to make things worse. That means no greasy food, no spicy dishes, and absolutely no coffee. For a little extra relief, a nice cup of ginger or chamomile tea can be really soothing. All right, you're hydrated, you've had a little something to eat, we're making progress. Now let's tackle the final 2 steps of the recovery plan. Managing that headache the right way and giving your brain the rest it desperately needs. Reaching for a painkiller might seem like the obvious next move, but this is where you have to be really careful. Not all painkillers are created equal, especially when your body is already working overtime to process alcohol. Making the right choice here is critical for your safety. Okay, so here's the crucial takeaway. Ibuprofen can be an option, but only if you take it with food and never if you have a history of stomach issues like gastritis. Now, paracetamol or acetaminophen is the one you really have to watch out for. Your liver uses the same pathway to process both alcohol and paracetamol. When it gets overloaded, you risk severe toxic damage. So only even consider it if you drank a very small amount, and you should avoid it completely if you drank heavily.
Finally, we've arrived at step 5, rest. And this isn't just about feeling tired. You see, even if you slept for 8 hours, alcohol completely disrupts your deep sleep cycles. It actually leaves your brain in a weirdly overstimulated, agitated state. So what your overstimulated brain really needs is just a break. Take it easy. Short naps can definitely help. You want to avoid bright screens, loud noises, and please put off any intense exercise. Giving your brain this downtime is the best way to combat that irritability, the sensitivity to light, and that deep, deep fatigue.
Okay, we've covered the full recovery plan, but now we need to talk about something very serious. It is absolutely vital to know when what you're experiencing is more than just a typical hangover and is actually a medical emergency.
Please pay close attention here. The following symptoms are not things you can just tough out. If you or someone you're with experiences any of these, it could be a sign of a life-threatening condition, and you need to get help immediately.
You need to go to the emergency room immediately if there's persistent vomiting, especially if there's any blood. If you're experiencing confusion, a fever, or convulsions, if there's intense pain in your abdomen, if you notice any yellowing of the skin or eyes, or if someone is so drowsy they can't be woken up easily. And finally, if there's any chance at all of methanol poisoning or a dangerous interaction with other drugs. Don't wait.
So there you have it, a step-by-step plan for recovery. You know what to do, you know what to avoid, and you know when to get emergency help. It's a great toolkit to have. But, it does leave us with one final important question, doesn't it? What's the best way to make sure you never have to use this plan in the first place?